Hey there, and welcome to your own personal deep dive. This one is all about navigating the digital world, which, let's be honest, feels like it's changing by the nanosecond. So to help us all stay ahead of the curve, we're tapping into the mind of Thomas Styron.
You're diving into the world of a true internet OG with this one. We're talking about a guy who was coding websites before most people even knew what a website was.
Right, and thankfully for all of us, he shares his insights on his blog, Net's First Air, which translates to Internet Understander. And trust me, after sifting through his latest posts, this guy really does understand the internet.
He really does. And he doesn't shy away from bold predictions. For example, he's calling generative AI the biggest game changer in internet history.
Generative AI, what a mouthful. But honestly, it does sound kind of intimidating. What does that even mean in plain English?
Think of it like this. It's AI that can create things. And we're not just talking about simple things. We're talking about AI that can write articles, compose music, even design websites. Styron specifically points to ChatGPT, which I know you've seen in the news lately, as a prime example of this technology in action.
Okay, so it's not just about AI that can answer questions or play chess anymore. It's AI that can actually create things that we used to think only humans could do.
Exactly. And Styron takes it a step further. He highlights how some brands are already replacing human models with AI-generated ones. He even gives the example of a major fashion brand that used entirely AI-generated models for their latest campaign.
Wow. That's both fascinating and a little unnerving, isn't it?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what this means for the future of, well, everything. Especially with Styron saying it's the biggest game changer in internet history.
And it's not just the creative fields that are being impacted. Styron argues that generative AI is going to touch every aspect of our lives, from how we work to how we consume information.
So it's not just about AI models replacing human models in ads. It's about AI changing how we write articles, create art, even how we shop for clothes.
Exactly. And Styron doesn't just talk about the potential of this technology. He also delves into the challenges it presents. For example, he talks about the need for businesses to be transparent about their use of AI. So consumers aren't misled into thinking they're interacting with a real person when they're actually chatting with a chatbot.
That makes sense. Transparency feels especially important in a world where AI is becoming increasingly sophisticated. Speaking of which, you mentioned that Styron has his finger on the pulse of all things digital. What else is he seeing on the horizon?
Well, he's also paying close attention to the rise of new social media platforms and how they're changing the way we connect and consume content.
So is it all about Instagram and TikTok these days? Or are there other players emerging that we should be aware of?
While Instagram is still a major force, Saren believes that newer platforms like Twitch and Discord, which cater to specific communities and interests, are going to become increasingly important for businesses looking to connect with niche audiences.
So it's not just about being on every platform. It's about being on the right platforms for your target audience.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Exactly. And it ties into another one of Styron's big predictions, the rise of what he calls hyper-personalization, where marketing messages are tailored not just to your demographics, but to your specific interests and online behavior.
Hyper-personalization. So it's like those targeted ads that seem to follow you around the internet,
Right.
but on steroids.
Precisely. And while it might sound a bit creepy at first, Styron argues that when done right, hyper-personalization can actually lead to a more relevant and enjoyable online experience for consumers.
So it's about striking that balance between being relevant and being, well, too personal. It's a fine line. Speaking of navigating fine lines, one trend that really caught my eye in Styron's blog is the whole social commerce phenomenon. It seems like every other day there's a new article about how influencers are taking over the world, but Styron really digs deep into the why and how.
He does. And what's fascinating is that he ties social commerce directly to this idea of hyper-personalization we were just talking about. He argues that influencers are so effective because they've already built that trust and connection with their audience. They've created these hyper-personalized communities around shared interests, whether it's fashion, gaming, or sustainable living.
So it's not just about an influencer saying, hey, buy this product. It's about them saying, hey, this product fits perfectly into the lifestyle we've already built together.
Exactly. Styron uses the example of a fitness influencer who partners with a brand of workout gear. It's not just a random endorsement. It's an extension of the community and lifestyle that the influencer has already established.
Which makes perfect sense, right?
Okay.
People trust recommendations from sources they already follow and admire. It's like getting advice from a friend.
Exactly. Styron even goes so far as to say that influencer marketing is becoming the new word of mouth. It's about authenticity and connection, not just pushing products.
So it's not just about businesses throwing money at influencers with the most followers. It's about finding the right influencers who genuinely align with their brand values and target audience.
Precisely. And Styron offers some really practical advice for businesses looking to navigate this new landscape. He stresses the importance of doing your research, identifying influencers whose values align with your brand, and establishing genuine relationships with them.
So it's like any other business partnership. It's about finding the right fit and building a mutually beneficial relationship.
Exactly. And it's about thinking long term. Styron cautions against approaching influencer marketing as a quick fix. He emphasizes the importance of building authentic relationships with influencers and creating campaigns that provide real value to their followers.
That's such a refreshing perspective.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about all the trends we've discussed so far, from generative AI to social commerce. They all seem to be pushing us toward a more personalized, authentic, and, dare I say, human-centered digital experience.
Absolutely. And I think that's a perfect segue into Styron's vision of the future. Because while he's excited about the potential of all these emerging technologies, he's also keenly aware of the need to keep humanity at the forefront of the digital revolution.
Okay, now you've got me on the edge of my seat. What kind of future does Styron envision? What are the big trends that he sees shaping the digital world in the years to come?
Well, he doesn't hold back on the wow factor. We're talking about things that sound straight out of science fiction: quantum computers, digital telepathy, even 4D printing.
Okay, wait, hold the phone. Digital telepathy, is that even a real thing? Or are we talking about mind control and telekinetic power? Should I be investing in a tinfoil hat?
I think you're safe for now. No tinfoil hat required, at least not yet. But in all seriousness, Styron is referring to the development of brain-computer interfaces, which could revolutionize the way we interact with technology.
Okay, so maybe not telepathy in the traditional sense, but still some pretty mind-blowing stuff. But what about these other future trends you mentioned, quantum computers and 4D printing?
These aren't just futuristic fantasies. They're technologies that are actively being developed and have the potential to fundamentally reshape our world. Styron highlights how quantum computers could revolutionize everything from medicine to material science, with the ability to solve complex problems that are currently impossible for even the most advanced classical computers.
So we're talking about curing diseases, developing new energy sources,
Yeah.
even cracking the code of consciousness itself.
Potentially, yes. And then there's 4D printing, which takes 3D printing to a whole new level. Imagine materials that can change shape, adapt to their environment, even self-repair.
That's wild. I can see that being a game changer in so many fields. But with all this talk of technological advancements, it's hard not to think about the potential downsides. Or is Styron at all concerned about things like job displacement or even the idea of AI becoming too intelligent for our own good?
Those are valid concerns, and Styron doesn't shy away from them. In fact, he dedicates a significant portion of his blog to discussing the ethical implications of these technologies and the importance of ensuring that they're used responsibly.
So it's not just about blindly embracing every new technology that comes along. It's about having thoughtful conversations about their potential impact and making sure we're using them for good, not just for profit or progress for the sake of progress.
Precisely. And I think that's a powerful message that's particularly relevant in today's world, where technology is advancing at an unprecedented rate. It's up to all of us, not just scientists and tech CEOs, to shape the digital future we want to see.
It's like we're holding the keys to the future, but haven't quite figured out the map yet.
And Styron argues that the map isn't something to be found. It's something we create collectively through our choices and actions.
So how do we make sure we're creating the right map? The one that leads to a future where technology enhances our lives without, taking them over completely.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And Styron doesn't pretend to have all the answers, but he does offer a framework for thinking about these challenges. He encourages his readers to approach emerging technologies with a critical but optimistic mindset, to ask tough questions about their potential impact on society, the economy, and even our own humanity.
So it's not about being afraid of the future or rejecting technology altogether. It's about engaging with it thoughtfully and responsibly.
Exactly. Styron believes that the most successful businesses in the coming years will be those that embrace the potential of these technologies, while also addressing their ethical implications.
It's like that old saying, with great power comes great responsibility. We've got all these incredible tools at our disposal, but we need to use them wisely.
Precisely. And that requires a shift in mindset, not just for business leaders, but for all of us. We need to become more comfortable with ambiguity, more adept at adapting to change, and more willing to engage in open and honest conversations about the kind of future we want to create.
It's about being active participants in shaping the digital landscape, not just passive consumers of whatever new gadget or platform comes along next.
Exactly. And I think that's an incredibly empowering message, because it means that we all have a role to play in shaping the digital future, whether we're tech entrepreneurs, artists, educators, or just everyday citizens.
Well, so can we do? Where do we even begin? It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the sheer scale and complexity of these trends.
Stern suggests starting with small but meaningful actions. Educate yourself about the technologies that are shaping our world, support businesses that are using technology responsibly, and most importantly, engage in conversations about these issues with your friends, family, and community.
Because the future isn't something that's going to happen to us. It's something we're creating together. One click, one swipe, one decision at a time.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive, but before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought from Thomas Stern.
I'm all ears.
He writes, "The digital revolution is not an endpoint, it's a continuous journey, and the most exciting discoveries are yet to come."
I love that. It's a reminder that we're all explorers in this new digital frontier, and that the future is ours to shape, if we're brave enough to imagine it and bold enough to create it.
Absolutely.
This has been incredibly eye-opening. A huge thank you to Thomas Stern for his incredible insights, and to you, dear listener, for joining us on this deep dive into the ever-evolving world of digital transformation. We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.